Alright, so here we go with chapter 12. We are going to talk today about the surface area of prisms. Now, you haven't seen prism in a math class before, so here is the number one most important thing to remember about prisms. Prisms are going to have two bases. So if we look at this first prism here on the left, the bases, we can see this is a base, this hexagon on the top, and this is a base down here on the bottom. So if you can imagine taking this prism and taking it apart, basically unfolding it, it turns into this over here. So you can see you got your two bases. So here's your base and your base. So it's almost like those were folded up and folded down from the prism on the left. And then you have all of these, kind of the sides of the prism all folded out like this. Okay, so let's talk about the base for a second. So we know a prism is going to have two bases, and they are going to be congruent. So your bases will always be the same size, and then they're also going to be parallel to each other. So here's two bases. You can see they're the same size, they're congruent, and they are parallel to each other. Then we have these things called lateral faces. So those are the sides, you can think of them as like the sides of your prism that are not the bases. So all of this going around, if you were to go around and talk about all these sides right here, those are called lateral faces. So the lateral faces are usually, or they are all, this is getting sloppy, parallelograms. I'm going to zoom in so I can write that better. Parallelograms. Alright, and then usually they will be rectangles. Okay, so your prism is made up of two parts. You've got your bases, so base, and then you've got your lateral faces. So we are going to work on finding the areas of all of these surfaces. So the surface area is going to be the area of the bases and the area of the lateral faces. So our lateral area formula is the sum of the areas of all lateral faces. So if we're trying to find a lateral area, it's basically the sum of all the lateral faces. Now the surface area is going to be basically the area of all the surfaces. So surface area formula is going to be the sum of the lateral area. This is so sloppy, I apologize. I need a new stylus. So it's the sum of the lateral area and the area of the two bases. Okay, I'll work on my handwriting. Good thing you guys are listening to this and not just writing down what you see. You wouldn't even be able to read it. For those of you that aren't listening, then good luck writing that down, and you're missing all this important stuff. Okay, next slide. Alright, so just keep in mind we're going to be dealing with area and volume in this chapter for lots of different shapes. Area is a two-dimensional space, where volume is a three-dimensional space. We also need to know that prisms are named according to their bases. The next video is going to go through that. And then, how do you know if a prism is a right prism or an oblique prism? So I'm going to try to zoom in and see if I can improve my handwriting. Okay, so if lateral edges are perpendicular to the bases, you have a right prism. So on the last slide, that prism example with the hexagon bases, that is a right prism because the lateral edges are perpendicular to the bases.